Welcome everybody to the January Supplier Spotlight for USENT. We are thrilled to have our colleagues from JedMed presenting the material this month. We've had this in the works for several months. And as many of you know, with JedMed equipment in your offices already, JedMed is really the leader, in my opinion, in all things office equipment, the things that we need to practice ENT. JedMed's a 40-plus-year-old company. And what's interesting to me is it is entirely employee owned. And so that shows as a customer, that shows as a partner in USENT, in their superior customer service compared to their competitors. You'll also see, hopefully in the next 20-25 minutes, the breadth of their catalog and their offering. With over 2,600 different instruments and supplies available, they really can outfit an office from stem to stern. So Jared and Dan, Jared Riemann and Dan Wyatt, will be presenting the material today, again, just in the next 15-20 minutes to reserve time for a few questions. And they're going to emphasize a few of the technologies that are most applicable to most of our offices. But any and all things are open for discussion, and we'll be sure to field questions. So feel free to type them in the chat function. Feel free to turn your microphone and ask. This is very informal, and obviously we've all gotten to know each other very well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jared and Dan.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Matheny. Appreciate it. We as a lot of you may be already familiar with JedMed, we have been in this industry, as Dr. Matheny highlighted, since 1978. So JedMed has been around for quite a long time. And that unique factor of the ESOP mentality is, at the end of the day, we want to support practices as much as we can, as well as other competitors. And I apologize, 1 second. I was just admitting one or two others here. But as we support your practices, our job is to make your life easier. You guys are dealing with the physicians, the practices, the insurance companies, the whole 9 yards. We understand it is incredibly challenging. And in terms of expansions and adding equipment, it tends to just be an added headache, but essentially a necessary evil. And that's where we kind of come into play, is to help support you guys in those efforts. So with that 43 years of experience, we see stuff all over the marketplace. So we can do these things, and we've done a lot of them at trade shows and highlighted our products to you as administrators and practices. And we can certainly highlight those benefits, but we wanted to throw a couple of different products out to you that could be directly beneficial to you guys. So let me backstep and say, JedMed's been here for this many years. We've supported practices all over the United States, from private practices to larger hospital systems. Our product line, as if you don't already know, is pretty broad-based, and our mentality is that we have been in this industry this long. We have reps all over the US, and we want to be able to support these practices. But our goal is to be a resource for you guys, to be able to tap. If there's something that we don't carry, we can at least refer you along or work with our partners like USENT and help navigate that. So some of the different products that we'll show you today are just a couple of examples of essentially problem solving, and even if it's not a problem, just highlighted factors that help make a difference in your practices. So that being said, I just want to show a couple of things here, but Dan, is there anything you want to highlight about JedMed and maybe bring to our folks' attention here today?
I think you pretty well covered it, Jared. The only thing I think I'd maybe add is that, we have that full line of products. We have a lot of surgical products, mostly office-based, but our goal is that we can create one location where you can get all of your equipment and not have to buy a microscope from one company and then buy your cabinets and chairs from another company and instruments from a different company. And by doing that, we can get you all the equipment in one fell swoop, but we can also offer, the pricing that we offer through USENT, which is usually more aggressive than what you would get from just a standalone, buying a Zeiss microscope or buying a competing product.
Thank you, Dan. Well, there's one quick product I want to show you. As Dr. Matheny mentioned, we have 2,600 different products, broad-based, try to cover everything. There's little nuances that go along with our products that I'm sure you guys see out in your practices, that we see out in the field, that benefit individual practices. So just wanted to highlight one or two of these projects. One of them is just our S2 mobile chair. It's a mobile based chair. I have a little promo video I just wanted to show to you for a second, just to highlight some of the benefits per se of what we have to offer. Let me just pull that up real fast. And I'm just going to screen share for 1 second just to show you this one quick video. And again, I want to respect your time, so we won't delve too much into it, but just want to at least highlight some of these. Screen share.
This is the S2 Plus full power ENT chair with mobile base. The chair includes full rotation with lever locking system stopping rotation. Something unique with this chair is the mobile base, which is activated by pushing down on the base lever with your foot. This allows the chair to glide over a level surface. The armrests flip back and completely out of the way. A headrest that can move vertically and tilt for patient comfort and positioning. The buttons on the side control the height as well as the reclining functions of the chair. The overall height is 53 to 65 inches. When reclining the chair, the armrests lay flat with the motion of the chair. A single touch home button returns the chair to its starting position.
So certainly nothing prolific. This is one of our basic ENT chairs, but I don't know if everyone noticed the mobile base is one of the unique factors that we have through JedMed, and no other companies have that in the US. It's just one of those things that we've developed. As you know, it's not changing the market by any means, but it's just one of those things that are in your practice from a sanitary level and from a repositioning of a room. It gives you those capabilities that essentially comes at very little to not much cost at all, and increase of the chair. So that's just one of those little nuances that we try to work on to develop products that help your practice. Dan White is going to highlight one other little product for us, a semi-flex rigid scope. So I'll let him take the stage here for a second.
Thanks, Jared. So yeah, Jared just showed the chair where it has a very unique feature with a mobile base. We're the only company that offers that. We are also the only company that offers what we refer to as a semi-flex or semi-flexible rigid scope. So this is a 2.7 millimeter sinus scope. It's a 0-degree scope. The idea behind it is it uses the same rod lens technology as any other endoscope that you would find on the market, but it's constructed in a way that allows it to be semi-flexible. So you can actually bend the scope without breaking the optics inside. And the reason for that, I'm showing on a 2.7 because it's much easier to see that flex in the scope. But the idea behind that is you can use that in procedure. And if you're pushing against the wall of the nose in order to get the best view, you're not going to crack that optic. So one of the things that we did as a test to kind of prove the efficiency and effectiveness of this construction is that we did kind of some comparison testing for repairs. And what we've determined is this scope is about 70% less likely to break than your traditional rod lens endoscope. So you're more likely to maintain those scopes, not have to send them out for repair, pay the extra cost, but also be without a scope or trying to get a loaner or something like that. So that's another completely unique item to JedMed is that semi-flexible rod lens endoscope.
So it's one of those small nuances, but a benefit to practice to obviously decrease some of the repair costs that come into play with that. Obviously, disclaimer, if that thing hits the floor, all bets are off. But just from the durability standpoint, it's significantly different than some of the other stuff that is out there. So really, we just wanted to kind of highlight JedMed and the opportunity for us to get in front of you guys. I know you guys have done a couple of these things, and I think we'll continue to do these. But again, JedMed, we've been around for a long time. We want to stay in front of you guys and see what we can do to support and help. And we're hoping our partnership with USENT is one of those benefits as well. So they can bring us to the market, but also there's other avenues and paths that USENT has to highlight in terms of the partners out in the field and to help support your practices and your docs. So Dr. Matheny, if you want to add something, please feel free, and then we'll kind of open it up. And I just want to get some folks' feedback, and if there was projects or information that we can try to help, or projects that are coming up in the near to long-term future, we'd appreciate the opportunity to help support.
Yeah, so we have a great cross-section on the call today. I mean, we have some very, very large organizations like Cadent in the Baltimore and DC and Northern Virginia area. We have ENT Partners, which is based in Chicago, but working hard to take over the entire world, right, Scott? We have a large practice in the suburban Philadelphia area in New Jersey, Mark Miller. And then we have a lot of practices that are more along the lines of my practice with 2, 3, 4 physicians. Danielle, thank you for hopping on, and some practices in between. But since we are blessed at USENT to know the business operations of all of these entities, many of those on the call, I think, are on this call strategically because they do have their own local expansion plans, whether it's just another exam room or 2, upgrading to a procedure room, or in many cases, an entirely new office. So I guess, Jared and Dan, how do you interface when you get a call from a practice, or if Julia or Greg or Jeremy and I reach out to you and said, okay, such and such practice is opening an entire new office. They have 4 exam rooms, procedure room. They need this, they need this. I guess, how does that process look, and how do you go about for USENT and members bidding that project, giving them an idea of the budget, timeline, those types of things?
Yeah, so in terms of reaching out, I myself, anytime, my email address is available, and we'll have all the information after the meeting. My phone is on night and day. The JedMed office we're based out of St. Louis, Missouri. So we have a whole customer service support group in place, as well as reps throughout the United States. So our typical process, and what has historically been done, is we meet folks like you either in these scenarios or out in trade shows, or reaching out to us directly. And we put you in contact with the local rep in conjunction with our in-office folks to help support. And I bring up our in-office folks because we've had a group of people, the majority of our employees have been with us for 15 plus years. So we had one that just retired after 41 years with us. So there's a lot of experience in this market that can be tapped into. And then in terms of getting pricing and information and support together, typically the best thing that we can do, if you guys are open to it, is to have a rep come in and take a look at what you guys are trying to do and trying to achieve. I know that kind of takes time out of your day, but it's not only to help you get a quote and pricing information in place, but also to support you in terms of expansions and information on what's happening out in the market.
So even at the level, Jared, of when you're in the blueprinting phase with the architects, right? I mean, right. I would imagine that you have such deep knowledge of flow, room flow, exam room flow, procedure room flow, where to put the electrical outlets, all that kind of stuff. So I would imagine that boots on the ground rep could be helpful even at the design phase, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We even have our engineering group in-house where we put CAD designs together for individual practices. That's not unusual. A matter of fact, a couple months ago, I was in with a practice where they had met with architects and they had formed out the actual room with styrofoam and made cabinets and chairs to actually show what the room was going to function like. And as we went in there, I'd give them some feedback on what other practices are doing. And they ended up shifting a couple things around just to adjust that was more accommodating for patient flow. Consistency seems to be a big thing that has been changing in the market in terms of mimicking rooms to make sure the physicians can flow better. Which, Dr. Matheny, I'm sure you can speak to that. It's all about getting the patients to flow.
Boy, you're at your best designing a room after it's done, right? I mean, I just went through a complete overhaul of I call it my procedure room, but it's a full operating room, and I do most of my sinus cases there. And I wasn't 3 cases into that before I thought, gosh, this should be over here and this should be over there, and it was kind of too late. And so yeah, I can see how valuable that would be. My next question, then I definitely want other folks to weigh in. Can you comment in general on the optics of the endoscopes and the microscopes relative to the market leaders? Obviously, USENT is partnered with Karl Storz and Carl Zeiss. And so, I would love to know as a physician, especially because we're constantly dropping scopes and having to replace them. That flexible scope was very interesting to me. And I think some of my office staff is on here as well. So can you comment on the optics relative to those market leaders and what physician feedback has been?
Yeah, so specifically to the rigid scopes you were mentioning and what Dan showed us earlier, those are all HD and wide angle. So that's the same equivalent optics that are out there compared to a Storz or Olympus. I have some experience having had work with them. That's the image that your physicians will see looking through that scope. The added benefit is that durability. So optically, those are those superior scopes that are out there in the market. In terms of microscopes, we tend to fall in that happy medium range. So Zeiss, there's no 2 ways about it. They make a great microscope. The image is impeccable. The function of it works great. Our optics actually come from the same company that are producing Zeiss optics in Germany, a company called Schott Glass Company. So as your physicians look through the scope, the microscope, they are looking through what would be the equivalent of a Zeiss microscope. Our benefit is we take off a few of the bells and the whistles, and we tend to be a little more budget conscious or budget friendly. That's a little more accommodating for private practices without degrading the image or the functionality of it. To some dismay, there's scopes that have been out in the field for 25 years that we get calls on all the time that we're able to help support and service. So that's part of that longevity too, of not only have a partner as you're expanding and opening up practices, but then also 20, 40 years down the road, we're that stable niche in this market to where that ESOP is a benefit for all of our employees, but it also limits our acquisition standpoint. So nobody can come in and buy us. Our goal is to be here for another 43 years. So hopefully your practices will benefit from that as well. But those optics and a lot of our products a lot of it is from relationships that we've had for 40 some years in Germany that allows us to provide these considered to be superior products at more of a budget conscious price. So that is not only in the optic arena, but carries over into instruments as well. So we have relationships with the manufacturers of all these instruments in Germany. It's actually a little town called Tuttlingen, Germany, is where a majority, or it used to be 95% of all surgical instruments in the world back in the 80s were produced from this small town. We have relationships with these families that are still producing these instruments, and that allows us to kind of leave out the middleman and the warehousing groups. We purchase directly from them. So I've been there and seen instruments that are manufactured for not only us, but companies like Storz and the other big names that are out there. But again, ours is more of a cost benefit scenario built on those relationships. So sorry to go off.
You're talking about nasal speculums and cerumen loops and knife handles.
Alligators, the blade sleeves, the broad line of instruments that are out there from a German quality standpoint.
Okay, well, attendees, any other questions? If there's one question about price points, of course, that's what we're all interested in. I will just speak to that at a high level. So JedMed really stepped up and across the catalog extended USENT members substantial discounted pricing over what you would get just calling them out of the proverbial yellow pages. And not only is there a commitment to meaningful price discounts, but to customer service even over and above what they normally provide, which is very high caliber. So I think we'll provide, either Julia and I and the team will provide that and be the middleman for price questions, or honestly, you could just go straight to Jared and Dan for USENT pricing for those specifics, just to avoid, sitting here going SKU by SKU on pricing.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to us directly, because Dr. Matheny and Julie have done a great job and USENT is in supporting us in terms of letting us know who the partners are. So whenever a customer brings questions or request quotes, then we're conscious of that fact and make sure we apply the USENT pricing.
And Jared, I just wanted to add one note to that too, just as kind of a fun thing, if anybody wants to try it. Our website is set up that you can actually type in competing surgical instrument manufacturers' part numbers. So if you had a store's instrument, you could actually type their number into our search box and it'll give you the result, the equivalent instrument from JedMed. And we do have all of the pricing. Now this is list pricing, not including the USENT discount. Those prices would be less than what you find on our website, but you can get an idea of what our list price is on those instruments without having to create a login or jump through any hoops. You can see that right there on the website.
That's a great function. I didn't even know that, Dan. Thank you for pointing that out. That's really interesting. Or what's the most random product that JedMed offers that none of us would expect you to offer?
Dan, field that one.
We have, let me pull it up on our website real quick. We have a very specific rongeur. Jared mentioned we've worked over the years with companies that have made these instruments for literally hundreds of years. We've got a frontal ostium punch that I'll share with you guys real quick. That's rather unique, in that it's actually angled up. It's able to cut at a different angle. Share my.
Oh yeah,
Jared,
that's the up. Yeah, we love that thing.
Jared, can you allow me to share my screen?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I'd like to thank.
There we go. So you can see the instrument here. It's rather unique in that it has this kind of, we'll call it like a chain cutting action so that it can curve around that angle, which is rather unique to JedMed. And then there's also another instrument that we call our rotating rongeur. So it's actually a rongeur that's able to rotate in different directions. You can kind of see in the lower portion of the screen there. It rotates into 7 different biting positions so that the physician doesn't need to turn their hand. They can get maximum leverage by holding the instrument in the same position and rotating the actual handle to bite. So those are 2 rather unique instruments that we have on the website as well.
Yeah, very nice. Sounds like I need to do a little shopping online. Well, let me look at the chat room before, we want to be sensitive with everyone's time. I'm noticing that Julia has shared Jared's email, so everyone make sure you save that before you disconnect. I think that's good. Scott, John, Mark, any specific needs as you guys continue to expand your empire? Danielle, anything that you guys need out in Southern California?
I have one question. This is Scott from ENT Partners. If you're hoping to introduce some of this equipment into your practice, what have you found to be kind of the best practice for hopefully getting the providers to be open to a transition. You know, a lot of these providers are very kind of brand loyal.
Stuck
And
in
I feel
our
like they-
ways. Stuck in
yeah,
our ways.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'd just like to hear, is there a demo process, opportunity, kind of what have you seen kind of best practice in that area?
Scott, thanks for that. That's a great question. And exactly that. That's the demo process is a big component to this. And again, that has to do with having the reps out in the field and the support system out there. Typically, we will, for most physicians, as Dr. Matheny mentioned, you tend to get used to what you use. There's no two ways about it. I guess we all do that in our daily lives. And it's hard to change from that stuff. So the best way we've seen over the years is to be able to allow people to get their hands on it. Certain things, as Dr. Matheny can probably attest to, if it's an instrument and it functions properly, you typically don't go and look at what the name is. It's doing its job per se. So it's hard to switch off of that. That being said, that's where that quality comes into play, and JedMed's quality really comes into play. We don't want them to look at it and go, this thing didn't work right. This is the name I don't want to touch again. But it is getting a demo unit into the physician's hand and helping them make that adjustment into something new. Obviously, practices that are expanding are very conscious of the cost side of things. And Julie and I, as a matter of fact, have had a call earlier this week with a group that fell into the same category where they were expanding into a number of different rooms, very price conscious of it. But she also made the comment about how one of her senior doctors had said, you know what, the quality of the instrument, we can go get it for cheap. There's no two ways about it. You can find stuff on eBay for dirt cheap. The quality aspect of it, she said, and he said this to her, was this one alligator I've had for, I don't know, he said like 12 years or something like that. And meanwhile, they've gone through 15 others of what would consider to be a lesser grade, not that top quality German side of it. So getting that in the instrument or the piece of equipment into the doctor's hands is key. And then also highlighting that cost benefit side of it. So if there is some obviously working with USENT, there's some pricing structures that are beneficial. It's good to let the doctor know that too, because at the end of the day, they want to go with what they're accustomed to and what works well for them. We would love that for it to be us, but we also want to highlight that cost benefit side of it too. So Scott, reaching out to us directly and allowing a rep to come in and bring a piece of equipment in there is the best path to be able to get a physician to be open to a new change, not so much a change, but a new direction.
And just be sure, Scott, as you would, but any of you on the call or any of our colleagues, make sure you indicate that you're a USENT member on that inbound call or email, so it unlocks the preferential pricing. Well, great. Anything else? Our time is coming to an end. We know how busy everybody is now that we're back from the holidays and trying to stay in business with COVID and everything else still. So please feel free to email us at USENT or Jared or Dan directly with questions. But thank you everyone for your attendance. Jared, Dan, thank you so much for your sponsorship, your partnership. We really appreciate it all. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.